Shaid Mahmood. I'm the chair of the board at the Association of Colleges, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to the launch episode of the Anti-Racism in Action live stream, co-produced by the Black FE Leadership Group and by FE News. The actor Will Smith has said that he doesn't actually think racism is on the increase. He thinks it's just being filmed. So in today's world, to me, anti-racism means a proactive, conscious and very determined effort to work together to tackle the multidimensional aspects of racism. It means personal accountability and tangible action on the part of all of us to work with a common purpose and a common endeavour to tackle racism and to eradicate it.
Welcome everyone. Shaid, thank you so much for such an awesome intro to what's going to be a really awesome series that we've got coming up with the Black FE Leadership Group. Welcome to Anti-Racism in Action. This is the opening episode of a 9-part series that we're doing that is co-produced with the Black FE Leadership Group and FE News. My name is Gavin O'Mara. I'm the CEO and founder of FE News. I'm joined by some amazing guests, but a really amazing anchor as well. We've got on this series, we're going to be co-anchored all the way through with different experts from the Black FE Leadership Group. The challenge is massive. Maybe to give a couple of stats is 19 out of 234 college CEOs are black. That's just 8%. In governance, only 7 college chairs are black. That's 3%. That's really stark numbers. But today, in this whole series, is all around everyone coming together to offer solutions, to everyone to be able to come together and to change that. This time next year, we want very different stats, and only together can we do that. My co-anchor is someone I've known for a really, really long time. Robin Landman's OBE is someone I've known for, I've been doing FE News for 18 years. It feels like it's been 18 years that I've known Robin. And in all of that time, Robin has been an absolute champion for race equality in all the way through, and has been striving to make fundamental change. And I think what's really interesting about Black FE Leadership Group is that now is such a time of fundamental change. And Robin, I'd like to welcome you in and join me today if you could. Hey,
morning, everybody.
This last week for you was a really, really massive week. Yeah, you had the 1-year annual impact report, and also there was the announcement you was working with all of the major FE leadership recruiters to try to make change. This for the audience who may not have come across that, although I'm sure many have. Could you maybe give some sort of top notes as the progress so far? Because it's crazy. It seems like it's only been a year, but such progress has been made that's sort of been highlighted in the impact report.
Well, thanks, Gavin. But the impact report really is a testament to our members and to our supporters out there, the many supporters who immediately signed up to support the work we did, and we highlighted through the open letter, but also to engage positively in their own institutions, their own organizations, to speak frankly about the situation as it is now and what needs to be done. And I'd really like at this stage to pay tribute to my co-executive team members, because that impact report is reflective of a year of real hard work. You know, it's been constant, it's been sometimes frenetic, but it's been making impact. And what we've tried to do, what we've tried to characterize everything we've done with is a positive approach. So we want people to see that we will criticize, we will point out the problems, but we'll also provide solutions. And one of those solutions, Gavin, was the launch of the recruitment protocol. And that really is, I think, is a step change for our sector. It puts us back to the forefront. You know, we are taking action on anti-racism. All the 5 leading recruitment firms have responded positively and come up with something which is exceptional. And it makes it difficult for people now to say the support isn't there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what I've noticed with the impact report is it's just provided solutions. It's been really looking forensically at where are the sort of the challenges, but then how can you offer different solutions, but also in sort of in partnership with the sector, which is fantastic. I'd like to bring in our different guests now, if we could. We've got great privilege to be joined by Dr. Sam Parrott, CBE, recently, who's Group Principal and CEO of London and South East Education Group. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for inviting me this morning.
Oh, no, it's a real pleasure for you to join us. Thank you. And I'd also like to invite in Mandeep Gill as well, who's the Principal and Chief Executive of Newham Sixth Form College. How are you, Mandeep?
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. Probably more nervous than I've been in a long time, but good.
Mandeep, there's no reason at all. I think we're feeling more nervous by your amazing backdrop you got there. It's like looks epic. What I wanted to ask everyone was, what do you see the main sort of challenges and the solutions for the way forward? And Mandeep, it'd be really interesting to hear what it's been like for you with your own organisation, and then how you can sort of see a way moving forward for the whole sector.
Brilliant, thanks, Gavin. Can I just start by saying, a huge thank you to Robin, Stella, Janak and Amajit, who've been the exec at BFELG. Well done. I think the work you've done is phenomenal, and it's really, really important. And keep going, guys. I know it's not easy, but well done. And the impact report says the difference you're making. So thank you so much for that. In terms of my own organisation, what's been happening, I'm at a Newham Sixth Form College, which is affectionately called Newvic in Plaistow, East London. We've got about 87% of our students classify themselves as being BAME, about 67% of our staff, 35% of our governors, and about 30% of the management team, 50% of the senior management team. Now, brilliant statistics. But I can tell you now, Gavin, I think for me, my focus is not on statistics anymore, because the statistics I've heard all my life about, this needs to be better, there needs to be change, look how awful the representation is in the sector. I've been in the sector 20 years. I don't think I've heard anything different. And for me, it's now, you can keep giving me the statistics and I can keep being shocked by them every single time. We'll put those to the side. Let's just have the honest conversations. Do we all respect each other? If not, what are we doing about it? And I think that for me is now the way that I want to tackle this, and that's what we're doing currently at Newvic. So, I think the focus has become less on, yes, stop giving me the statistics. I know they're awful when I read them. They've never been anything but awful. But what am I going to do about it? Well, actually, let's work on what do we actually want. What we want is respect. Okay. What does that look like, and how do you get there? That's currently our thinking.
And what do you sort of see as if I can invite everyone in for that, really? Like, what do you see as the way forward to transcend the data, and this to be around, individuals and people, but for everyone to be given respect and everyone to be given opportunities? How do you sort of see a way forward with that, Sam?
Well, I think, organisations like the Black Further Education Leadership Group are shining a light on that for all of us, really. And I think quite fundamentally, what this last 18 months or so has shown for us is that, this is no longer a niche. This is no longer a peripheral activity. This is not something that's a piece of data attached to your SAR or a conversation that maybe you might have, because Ofsted are coming. This is fundamentally about culture and practice, and it's embedded not just in our priorities and our resources, but it's in our mission, and it's fundamental. And I think that's where, picking up on Mandeep's point about this not being about the data, it's about who you are. It's about being authentic. It's about having those conversations. And, I'm very, very aware personally that every time I come onto one of these conversations or discussions, whether it's with the AOC, whether it's with Robin or Stella, whether it's with other principals, I learn something new about how other people are approaching it, how systemic the issues are, and how to do things differently. And so I think the fact that we're sitting here today talking about, solutions, fundamentally, we don't have those solutions. I'm sitting here today. I don't have the answers. I can't, this is not an individual endeavour. This is a collective endeavour. And if we all work together, we'll start to, make a difference. And, we are, I think, seeing, principals like Mandeep and myself, we are endeavouring to be more authentic, to have more conversations, to recognise that we don't have the answers, but within our organisations, we have people with lived experiences who've got some great solutions and some great ways of helping us to understand the impact of their lived experience and the things we can do differently. And quite fundamentally, that is changing the way we all operate, how we listen to and engage with our staff and students. And that is what will develop that kind of cultural impact, which makes it much more embedded, sustainable, and long-lasting impact that we want to see, that does, as Mandeep says, go beyond the data.
And Robin, you've been a champion for racial equality for all the time I can remember being in the sector. Going back to Mandeep's original point, how do you sort of see a solution for us to sort of move forward with the whole sector being able to respect each other, but also particularly respect Black FE leaders or Black FE leaders of the future? How can we sort of open up those ceilings and open up those opportunities for people, really?
Yeah, I think there's the fundamental point that Mandeep made is critical here, because this is not about data. It's about what the data tells us about the prevailing culture and what it needs to be, what that culture needs to be. Because over the time that I've been active, and that's going back a long time, we've had on an ongoing commitment, in inverted commas, to equality and diversity. And that's not turned out to be anything other than words. That's the point. And what's also important, I think, is that it used to be a minority issue in the true sense of the word, but we're no longer in that position of being a small minority of the population. It's a growing proportion of the population. So 30% of our customer base in FE is Black, and that's growing. 20, 30 years' time, it'll be 50%. So it will no longer be a minority issue. And that's when data really has to give way to culture. It's about what Mandeep says. If we don't value the whole talent pool, then not only will FE suffer, but the whole country will suffer. Yeah. So that's the fundamental difference, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Sam, could we talk about a program that you've got? I'm just going to look at to make sure I've got the wording right here. It's a program you've been running called Enough is Enough, Tackling Racial Inequality. Could you explain that in a bit more detail about sort of the aims and vision around that, please?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, without wanting to kind of describe it as an initiative, it's essentially a programme through which we wanted to recognise that we had to do some disruptive things in order to think about our system and our culture and our ways of working differently. And that given that although we do have a 55-45 split in terms of our students and 75-25 in terms of our staff, actually we do need to make a difference and be more representative. But as I said earlier, we are not yet where we need to be, and we need to just continue to learn from our students and our staff about how we can have some more positive impact. So the idea behind this project was really to think about how we could enable staff and students to have a voice and to tackle issues that were important to them, that they felt would make a difference. So we committed a whole series of ideas to paper last year about how we could start to make a difference, and we've set up an evaluation programme for the next 10 years. All sorts of things happened. Senior staff gave up a pay award, they created a fund, there were all sorts of people and activities drawn into enabling this to happen. But essentially, we've got a 10-year grants programme that any staff and any students can apply for to either deliver a project or programme over time that will make a difference. And that's either within the college or beyond the college in our local communities. And the three that we kicked off with last year have been quite significant. So the first one was called Empower, and it was proposed by some of our staff, and it's been aimed at raising aspirations amongst Black learners with one-to-one mentoring, empowerment activities, and all music production, all sorts of different things that would build confidence and really break through some of the kind of either self-fulfilling aspirations of our students. And over 1,500 have been engaged in the first year. The second programme was called Saved by the Ball, and it was a football coaching programme that's been running in some of the schools in our multi-academy trust. It's aimed at 14 to 18-year-olds, and it's about using football and sports to give young people grassroots coaching qualifications, and through the FA doing further coaching qualifications. And all of those interventions have been tracked around engagement, not just with football, but also with education as well for young Black students, and that's had a big impact. And then we've run a project with our SEN students called Positive Changes, and it's been offering some quite targeted enrichment opportunities, motivational speakers, and over 40 students have already been engaged in that mentoring program. And those are things that fall outside of, if you like, our core activities that are really starting to empower, engage, and create new opportunities for almost 2,000 young people then within our college group.
Yeah, that's great. I think what's interesting with the program is you seem to do from looking outside in. So you seem to do pilots which then can roll national. So like UME, good for me, good for FE. Like the food banks as well, what you then did around national. So hopefully this could be something which could roll into being something which can help grassroots and to address things early on. Because I pick up totally what you're saying, Robin. I mean, what does everyone feel about how we can address the talent pool of the future? So is that learners? Is that staff? Is that, how do we sort of address the issues which, Mandeep was saying, we go beyond the data, that we then look at what we've got as, on the individual and human level to be able to bring people in to be the next college principals of the future? How do we sort of address that from grassroots? Is that a student level? Is that sort of people that are coming in and starting off their career or been in the in the sector for a long time? How do we sort of address that? What do you sort of see as the way forward?
Well, Gavin, if that's all right, I'll start with that. I think
go for it.
It goes back to what I started off saying. I think it's an honest conversation. It does start right with the students. I had a parent forum on Wednesday night last week, and a student and a parent came up and spoke to me about the difficulties they faced before they got onto a qualification. And they want to go on to be a doctor. And I said, listen, it's great you've had those difficulties, but you're going to face many more. And I said, let's be blunt about it. I know a lot of doctors, and you are going to face racism. I said, and what you've got to understand is that is going to happen. And my job is to make you understand it's going to happen, and make you understand that cannot be a reason not to keep doing what you want to do. And I think that applies exactly the same for our staff, and without sort of, talking about lots of sort of different examples, we can all share examples. I know Robin, the BFELG, when we got together, the different, quite horrific things we've had to share about the experiences we've had to get where we are. That's going to happen. And that's a fact. And what we've got to be able to do is develop a staff and a talent pool that recognise that that's going to happen, but at the same time, train them, teach them, support them to get over it. But it's got to work at both ends. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing about training the staff, preparing our students for the real world. There's another thing about working with college boards, working with other senior staff, so that they recognise as well when they might be, very much, going through an unconscious bias phase, when they might have certain attitudes which they don't realise when they come to the forefront can actually stop someone moving forward. So I think it's got to start at both, it's got to be worked on at both ends. And we've got to have and be brave and let people know, yes, this happens. I think one of the things we never talk about is this happens. And this is a reality. However, you can and will get past it. And that's our job with our students and staff.
And I think that that underpins kind of the growth mindset sort of approach that we're all taking, really, which is that, you know, we have to learn, we have to understand better, we have to collaborate, we have to discuss, we have to challenge ourselves, we have to grow, and we have to be disruptive. And, you know, the system needs disruption, doesn't it? You know, if it didn't need disrupting, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here thinking about all the different ways in which we can really tackle the issues. And so I think for all of us, you know, that kind, you know, having the same baseline approach and understanding, it's a bit like people talked about the pandemic. You know, we've all been on the same journey, but we've not been in the same boat. And it's exactly the same with racism. You know, we've been on journeys. The journey, you know, has a particular label, but actually we've all been in different boats on this journey. But how we move forward collectively and individually with a whole range of solutions to that is going to be different for us as leaders. It's going to be different for our governors. Our lived experiences of tackling institutional racism and the wider global issues are going to be very, very different. But I said earlier about learning, you know, every time I come on one of these conversations, I learn something. And one of the most significant things for me was a very, very early Black FE leadership group discussion where some data was presented, and it was talking about, you know, 10 cities in the UK now that are moving from being minority to majority ethnic. Now that is, you know, in a single piece of data, I know we've talked about, that's a very startling reality. And the most upsetting thing I find in London South East colleges is students who don't believe that they can make a difference. And I think that, you know, the things that Mandeep has been talking about and that we're doing are fundamentally about trying to break down and disrupt that thinking in young people so they do believe and they can make a difference. So the programme we're doing, which we talked about earlier, you know, where it touches the kind of national opportunity is that, you know, our staff are giving of their time to do this, you know, they're volunteering. People believe that this is the only way we can really disrupt the system and challenge our young people to believe that, you know, they can break those glass ceilings and those self-fulfilling expectations that have often come with them through the education system into the post-16 world. You know, they don't believe they can achieve a maths GCSE. They don't believe they can aspire to be, you know, in certain professions or roles that they see, you know, in wider society. So that disruption and challenge is absolutely fundamental to this cultural change that we're all endeavouring to be a part of.
Can I say, Gavin, that one of the things for me is that this is not unique to FE. Okay, this issue of racism pervades the whole of the education system. And if we look at the structure of the workforce in schools, colleges, higher education, roughly the same. You know, the worst performer is HE. So we have an issue here, which is one's about the workforce, and the other is about students and student attainment. We have a glaring issue in this country of underachievement by Black and minority ethnic students. Despite the fact that they do well at school, they find themselves in a declining area of opportunity when it comes to post-compulsory and higher education. That gap needs to be closed. And one of the things that will be instrumental in closing it is if they see others who look like them in positions of authority throughout their educational career, and people who know what they're going to experience, what they have experienced, and what they will experience in their lives. As Mandeep says, racism is going to happen. It's our job collectively, not just Black people, it's our job collectively to challenge it when it appears, to find ways of overcoming it, and to keep, as Sam says, keep our students hoping. So we need to change our workforce. It doesn't have to be a numbers game, it's a culture game. A white person can challenge racism as effectively, or even sometimes more so, than a Black person. So you can, if you are a Black student or a white student and you see an example of racism, you should hope, you should expect people in authority to challenge it and to bring some sort of closure to that.
Yeah, 100%. We're nearly out of time, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think we could talk for forever. And thankfully, we've got 9 episodes as a part of this series, and the whole idea is, like Mandeep and Sam are both saying, is that we haven't got all the answers, we haven't got all of the solutions yet, but together, I think that we can bring together. And Robin, what was really interesting, I saw at the weekend that Simon was been recruited in to be the first a black college leader in a Cambridge university, isn't it? Which is interesting that's been the case. Fair play to Simon. That's great news, but also a little bit shocking. He's the first person to date. To bring this into land. This is all and what has been interesting. Everyone's been bringing out, and I wanted to sort of highlight a few things at the end. Is the topic for this has all been around the underpinning of this series is making the most of an ethnically diverse Britain. And it's all around anti-racism in action. So can everyone give us like one sort of line of what they would like to see as an action moving forward that leaders or those in authority could do to be able to make a difference, like right now and in the future? Mandy, could I start with you?
Gavin. So right now, I think from a very practical point of view, it might sound a bit silly, a bit simple, but we've gone right back to basics and re-established an E&D group in the organisation. Now, we have these for long, I think most organisations have a group. The question is, what's been their impact and actually what's been their focus? So we've gone right back, re-established an entire new group and said, okay, and it's a representative, I'm really pleased to say it's very representative of protected characteristics with students and staff. And we've gone right back to basics and saying right now, okay, what is it that we actually need to be doing and focusing on that's going to make a difference? And again, I'll say it, yeah, I know the statistics, stop giving me the statistics. I want some actions. And I want some actions that we're going to be able to say, we did this, and as a result of this changed. And Sam, I'm going to say, I think your whole new strategy or initiative, I think, is brilliant. And I'm certainly going to steal some ideas. So thank you for those. So that's the short term. The other part you asked, Gavin, was in the long term. I think in the long term, for me, I think it's keeping the momentum. I think that's the important part. And I think that's what I was trying to say at the beginning about data. We get the data, we do something for a little while. We say, hey, look, we've increased this by 2%, and then it all stops again. I think this has to carry on. And the way that I look at it from always 2 perspectives. I look at it from my son and daughter. I want them to face less than what I've had to face. I want them to understand they're going to face it, but I want them to face less. And just like for my son and daughter, I want exactly the same for my students. I want my students to face less. So the longer term is, how do we do that? Well, that is where we start, like I said, building and maintaining momentum. So this isn't another great, fantastic initiative that will be starting again 5 years from now saying, oh, look at the data, I think it's really bad, we need to do something. And again, I put my hands up my hands together, I should say, and thank very sincerely BFELG, guys, well done, and everyone that's been supporting. It is quite phenomenal. I'm sure together we're going to keep that momentum, and that's the long term for me.
Sam, what would you like to see as actions? Mandy, they're all fantastic points there, thank you.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short because I don't think I can say it as well as Mandeep just said it actually, really. But the wonderful FE sector that we work in is inclusive and it's diverse and it supports people from all sorts of backgrounds to progress and achieve their ambitions. But there is no room for any type of discrimination in our sector, but eradicating racism specifically requires long-term commitment and action. So I think the one thing that we can all do to keep it simple is to adopt the Black Further Education Leadership Group's 10-point plan, because that clearly sets out the actions that need to be taken and supports colleges to do this. That would be my one takeaway from today. If you're struggling to know what to do, adopt the plan and the support that's available, and it will help you and challenge you and make you feel uncomfortable, but it will help you make progress to ensure that it's at the heart of everything we do and we deliver that long-term sustainable and impactful change for our students and our communities for generations.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Robin, what would you like to see as action like now and in for the future?
Well, I think I would like to address my remarks to those who have not engaged with the Black FE Leadership Group yet. There are many people out there, not many, but some people out there who thought that the furore that was generated by the murder of George Floyd would go away and things would go back to normal. They won't. The new normal is anti-racism, and you have to be part of that, because if you're not, you're actually working against it. So I think it's about what Sam just said. Engage with the discomfort, because that will pass. The data will tell you where you are now. Your data will tell you where you are now. Your cultural ambitions will tell you where you want to be. And your actions to get there are in your hands. So we will help you. All of us involved in this conversation will help you. And as Sam says, the Black FE Leadership Group Diagnostic Toolkit is a real, I think, bonus for the sector. But do something. The hashtag says it all, really. It requires action, and it requires bravery from leaders in all parts of the sector.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Robin, thank you for taking us through the journey here, and for this long term, just constantly making impactful change. Mandeep, thank you, and thank you for sharing all of your experience. And also, it's about keeping it real, isn't it? Like, data is one thing, and it's it's good to know, but so what? How are we actually making the difference? So I think that's really, really important. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's great, Sam, as well, bringing this in around coaching and developing people for the future and inspiring people. You will be able to make impactful change. You will go through difficulty, but you can make a difference. You can be that doctor for the future. It's going to save lives and make people, lives improve. You can also be that college leader of the future as well. And I think it's just really, really brilliant. So thank you all of our guests and my co-anchor. Thank you everyone for listening in. Also, there's some people in the background that have really made the magic happen. So it's been the exec team from BFELG. It's been Robin, particularly Stella. Stella has absolutely worked her socks off to be able to make this all happen. Janak and Amajit. Also on the FE News side, it wouldn't be right without saying a massive thank you to Aaliyah, who's been working really hard to get everything already in the background. Kelly and Finley as well. So thank you everyone for all your hard work to make this happen. This is part one of 9 episodes, which are going to be going every Monday morning at 9:30 in the morning. If you can't join us live, there's going to be catch up on the site on FE News, and there's also going to be a legacy article. Sam, we're going to add in onto the legacy article about the 10-point plan, so everyone can see that from what the great points that you said today. Next week is I'm going to be joined with Stella. And we're going to be looking at anti-racism in action with employers and employment. So I hope you can all join us. If you can't, there's catch-ups, there's legacy articles, there's no excuse. We can all come together to be able to make fundamental change and real action in addressing anti-racism. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And together, we might not have the answers yet, but together we will, as a collective, be able to come together to be able to come up with some plans. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.